I'm Kristen Gross, and I'm the Global Executive Director for the Vision Impact Institute, located in Dallas, Texas. There is not much emphasis on uncorrected refractive error today with the government, but there are programs that are being done through the National Blindness Control Program. I think the impact that we need to make today is an implementation. When you ask about whether the goal of correcting preventable blindness by the end of 2020, if we're even in reach of that goal, I believe that we have much work to be done, but I do believe that we're making great strides. So the Vision Impact Institute is working with organizations like Vision 2020 India, Vision 2020 USA, as part of the Organization for the International Agency for the Prevention of Blindness. We had to set that goal very high. And I think in order to reach that goal, we have much work to do. Yes, I think the India-specific numbers, actually, a recent study that came out showed 80% of road accidents that happen, 80% of the drivers actually have an impairment in their vision at some point. And this is an India-specific number. What we also know is that from a global perspective, 60% of road accidents actually happen from an impaired vision. So I would say that India has about 300 road accidents a day that result in death. What we know right now is that there are renewals for licensing for commercial drivers at every 3 years. In Delhi, that's every 2 years. And that actually requires a vision test at that point. But when you look at vision for the private driver, that can be anywhere from 20 years that we're looking at from the perspective of renewal. We would suggest that that renewal time is shortened and that eye exams actually happen every year. If people are getting their eyes examined every year, they won't have any issue with the license renewal. So the Vision Impact Institute was created around a number, 2.5 billion people in the world who need vision correction. And this is vision correction that actually can happen as a result of a pair of eyeglasses. When we look at India and the specifics in India, there are 550 million people who could be corrected with a pair of eyeglasses. What we are doing today is we're having discussions around driver safety and around children and academic performance. We believe that if we can make a difference in the lives of children, we can make that difference in the lives of the future generations for India. So some of the things that we're doing around commercial drivers is we're actually talking to organizations that provide training for these drivers. We know that the renewals require an eye exam or a certificate of fitness. Each of those different types of training centers have a different standard. And what we're looking to do is have the conversation to change the standard to be something that is the same across all channels. As we talk to those organizations, we're working to sensitize the commercial drivers to really help them understand that we need to remove the stigma of wearing a pair of eyeglasses when it relates to their employability. So at this point, there are discussions with the government. We're talking to changing policy. How do we make the policy more standard? So we are working, the Vision Impact Institute is working very closely, not only with governments in India, but also with organizations like driving schools, which we talked about, with manufacturers and other corporate partners. We also work with, like we said, the Vision 2020 project in India and the IAPB and the Brian Holden Vision Institute on a global scale. We know that vision is such a widespread issue that there's no way we can do this alone. So we do believe that while the government has a responsibility, the private sector also does. I would say the global scenario in correcting this uncorrected refractive error, when you look at what the world is talking about, a lot of times it's about the prevention of blindness. When we know that uncorrected refractive error is a major cause of blindness, we also know that vision impairment, 80% of it can be corrected with just a pair of glasses. So if we can change the lives of the 2.5 billion people who can be corrected with a pair of glasses, then we have that opportunity to have a bigger voice. What we're doing is we're working with those organizations that are already having these discussions in the area of preventable blindness and raising the discussion of URE. We're finding that uncorrected refractive error is becoming a topic of discussion as other topics around vision health have actually gone by the wayside. They're being taken care of, like clean water. There's no more disease because of clean water. The blindness is that the numbers are changing. So as we just look at the bottom of that pyramid, where does blindness start? It can start just with a preventable cause. So let me define uncorrected refractive error, because I think it's important to understand what we're talking about. When we talk about uncorrected refractive error, we're talking about myopia and hyperopia, presbyopia, and we're talking about astigmatisms. All of these are correctable issues within vision. What we see today is hyperopia, or myopia, is actually affecting children on a very large scale basis. And we're looking at a trend that's talking about a global trend of 5 billion people by the year 2050 who will be affected by myopia. The reason this is such a tremendous problem is that it's not actually anymore just a genetic issue. It's actually related to technologies and risk of or lesser outdoor time for children. It's actually even talking about how we are changing the physiology of our eyes just by having near devices. So this is going to be an issue that we'll be talking about for many years to come. From a presbyopia perspective, we actually are talking about people over 40, maybe 45 if they're lucky. But this is a near vision issue. It's something that is natural. 99% of the population will be affected here. But it is something that causes an early kind of phase out of people's profitability if it's not corrected in time.